Hi everybody, and welcome to day 91 of 100 days of videos. Today I'm talking about cake pops. Cake pops are a fun project, but they are very labor intensive. Let me explain the steps to you. First of all, you have to make a cake. Now, I normally make my cakes from scratch, but a lot of times when I do cake pops, because they are so labor intensive, a lot of times I will do mixes. So I did. I made my cake last night. It was with a yellow cake mix, and I decided to use the King Arthur flour gluten-free yellow cake mix. I'd never tried it before, and I'm going to a party tonight, and I know the people there will appreciate whatever I bring, and I wasn't worried if I didn't like it, I wasn't worried about it because cake pops are well disguised. So I did that. I made that last night. And then this morning, what I did is I made a batch of frosting. Now, again, you could buy a batch of frosting. I thought, I'm going to try this. All these years, I don't normally use canned frosting, but I thought it's nice sometimes if I have to do lettering. Let's say if I run out of frosting, or I work with whipped cream and cream cheese frosting. Sometimes independently, whipped cream by itself or cream cheese by itself. Other times I mix them both together. Lately, my favorite frosting has been where the two are mixed together. So sometimes it's better to use like a buttercream for lettering of happy birthday or happy anniversary, whatever. So I thought, well, I'll just buy some, canned buttercream for that. I thought, well, same thing with the cake pops. I can use the canned buttercream frosting. Well, I opened it up and took a tiny taste of it, and I went, this stuff is garbage. This is horrible. I can't serve this to anybody I care about. I can't serve this to anybody I don't care about. I just can't serve this to anybody. So I threw it away. So I made my own batch of frosting. Again, the combination whipped cream and cream cheese frosting. Then what you do is you break up the cake, and I forgot to put on my wedding band. I took off my wedding band. I wonder if my property master can hand me my wedding ring set over there. Tom's home today, so he's going to help me out here today. Anyway, I took off, because I'm digging my hands in the cake and crumbling it all up. I took off my wedding band. Thanks, hon. Okay, thank you. All right. And then you add little bits of the frosting. The idea here is to get at the consistency of, I guess the best way to describe it is Play-Doh. So then once you get at the consistency of Play-Doh, you roll it out into little balls. That's hence, like lollipops, hence they're called cake pops. Now I use, let's see, it's right here in my dishwasher, which is right here. I use I don't remember the number of this, okay, but it's a cookie press, all right? And it's about a 1-inch, roughly. Yeah, there it is right there. It looks like an ice cream scooper, but it really isn't. It's really a cookie press. And that's what I use. But even though I'm using a cake press, that allows me to make them the same size, but I still kind of have to roll them, because when they come out of the cake press, they're flat on the one side, and of course we don't want that. So after I roll them all out, which I've got right here, and I'll just show you. Okay, and this particular batch made a lot. Look at that. I put them on a cookie sheet with a parchment piece of paper, and I'm not going to tilt it enough for you to see that, because I don't want these little babies. I've got about 80 of them here, and I don't want these little babies rolling all around my counter or the floor or anywhere. And so what I'm doing is, then after I've rolled them out, I pop them in the freezer, lay them flat, and I want them to get firmer. I don't want them to freeze, but I want them to get firmer. So now you understand why it's so labor intensive. I have not yet begun. The next step in this process is to take candy melts. Now I use Wilton candy melts because that's kind of what I can get, but I've seen other candy melts out there too, or candy wafers. Hobby Lobby carries a brand that's not Wilton. Used to be in the old days, you'd get 16 ounces, then you got 14 ounces. Now you're getting 12 ounces to a bag. Not cool. So you're going to take these candy melts, and let me get a scissors here. And sorry for leaving camera there. I'm going to open these up and I'm going to put them inside my little, this is a Pampered Chef. I don't know if it's Measure, Mix, and Pour or whatever, what it's called. I think it's, I don't remember, but I love these. I love these mixing bowls. And I'm going to put them in here and see it. There we go. And I'm using white. Now, earlier this week, I made some modeling candy, red modeling candy, out of red Wilton candy melts. They're over here. And it's very, very hard. And so what I'll need to do is nuke them or microwave them for a few seconds and soften it up. Because again, I want this Play-Doh consistency, but I'll tell you about that in a little bit. First, let's melt these. It's going to take probably about a minute. I like to do 20-second intervals, but you know, I think what I'll do is just do this at 50% power. So cook time, 1 minute, power, 5. I'm doing this at half power. And while that's, I can check it here in a few seconds. But while that's warming up, I also have cake pop trays. Yes, it is labor intensive. And I have some lollipop sticks that you can get. Make sure, I did this the first time I bought this, lollipop sticks, is they were too big for the perforations, the holes in the cake pop tray. But these are the right size and they come in various lengths. And this particular one holds about 20 cake pops. So I have several of these trays. So I'm just lining that up. Now, let's go over here and check. And I can see just by looking that those aren't even near ready. So I'm gonna, this is what I do. I don't always follow directions. I do my own thing. I'm gonna run these for 20 seconds at full power. And while that's running, I'm going to go over here to this other part of my kitchen and get my spatula, which I forgot to get before I started this live. So that'll just go for about 20 seconds. And I'm using a small, narrow spatula because you don't really need that big of a one for this particular project. And after 20 seconds, I'll check to see how melted they are. And I'll just do this every 20-second interval. There we go. Oh, this is looking more promising, but they're not yet melted, I can tell. Even just touching them, I can tell. So, yeah, the whole half power thing. And this is a pretty powerful microwave, but... So, I'm going to take out a plate here so I can put my spatula on this plate. And now the goal here is to take the lollipop stick, put it in one of my cooled cake pops. You can play with the size of it. I thoroughly washed my hands. And I'm going to set it here while I'm going to check and see the candy melt. Now, the bowl is feeling warm and it's partially melting. I tried to rig my camera, my phone and camera, so you could see, so I wouldn't have to always hold up, but not working. It was either hold up what I'm doing or cut my head off. But I do look tall, don't I? Alrighty. So we're just going to go ahead and do that. And what I'll do is while that's warming up here and melting, I will skewer a couple more of these babies and just put them on my tray. See how I'm doing this like that? And that'll just make this work a little bit more quick. There's nothing quick about this process. But to me, it's just a fun creative outlet. Now, here's a trick to making cake pops. Or anything like this for the holidays. This is not anything keto or code red or dietetic. whatsoever. So what's the key when you're doing this? How do you not sugar out or eat too much, gain tons of weight, etc., etc.? The trick is to not do not even one, what I call a BLT. That's a bite, and I learned this from years ago when I was in Weight Watchers. That BLT stands for, you think it stands for bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich? No, it stands for bite, lick, or taste. Not one. Not one. Not a crumb. Not a drop. Nothing. Zero, zilch. And I look at this as a creative project, not a culinary one, although I do want it good enough for people to eat. Now, it's gotten much more melted, but the candy melts. I don't know how well you can see. They're still quite chunky. Boy, the granite countertop is not quiet, is it? So I'm going to put this in one more time here. I think one more zap ought to do it. And again, I'll just go ahead and skewer this. I don't know how long this video is going to be. It's funny, when Tom was watching me during this process, he said, this is quite labor intensive. I said, well, I warned you, hon. Let's try that. We don't want to melt, or we want to melt them. We don't want to burn them. So I'm going to mix this up. We might be there. I might zap it another 10 seconds just to make sure it's nice and melted. See, here we go. You can see. Now this is what's going to be tricky to show you. I'm going to zap this another 5 or 10 seconds. This is the tricky part now, is when you swirl it in the candy melt that you don't lose the cake pop. Because once you lose that cake pop and you start chasing it around the bowl, you don't want that candy melt to get full of crumbs. And you don't want, you know, it's like once you lose it off the lollipop stick, it's pretty much toast instead of a cake pop. All right. Now, I realize I'm taking a risk by doing this live, but I wanted to just demonstrate for you. So here we go. Now I'm putting it in. This is not easy, and I'm swirling it. Be careful. Don't get it too deep in there. You got it, you know, and be careful swirling it. Okay, and I make sure that you don't see cake. And then when I take it out, I kind of swirl it a little bit. We want to have it keep its integrity as far as its shape is concerned. Now, if it's, and this is not perfect, and a lot of times my first few aren't, and I might need to zap this in the microwave a little bit more. But I'm fairly satisfied with this. Now, they will have a tendency to drip down the lollipop stick, and that's okay. You know, I've noticed that guests don't seem to mind eating that candy. There we go. And now what you can do once you've done this is it's still too wet to do anything with this. And in fact, it's kind of on here thick, so I'm just gonna roll it around a little bit. But once it starts to set, then you can mix it in a bunch of things. Like I've got these little Christmas colors, or you can just leave them plain. Some people just like them plain, or you can do, you can do Christmas colors. I have some silver. This really looks silver too. And this was a very small amount, as you can see. And it was quite pricey, as I recall, when I bought this. But you can roll this in silver, okay, and have a silver Christmas, you know, like an ornament kind of a thing. And then here are some more red and green, and I've got some gold ones. I've got a bunch of stuff in my little basket over here. And you have to periodically zap the candy melts because they start to set up and harden and get crusty. And then once you do that, that's not going to work. And so here we go. I'm going to set this one here. Yeah, I don't like how thick it's on here. I had it in there too long. It's been a long time since I've done these, and I'm sure you understand why, because they are quite labor intensive. And then I think what I'll do with a couple of these, and I might enlist Tom to help me if he wants. He doesn't have to. But what I might do with a couple of these guys is make some Santa hats for them. And so that'll be fun. And I'll show you how I do that in a second. Here we go. I'm just dipping it in again. And this is already, you know, it's winter. And it's already getting warm enough. And I might have these cake pops a little bit too frozen, which is not a good idea. But there we go. There we are. Isn't that fun? So it's like eating a lollipop or a Tootsie Roll Pop, except it's cake. How much fun is that? And then let's do this guy here. I'll do one more. Here we go. I'm not going to keep him in as long, because the warmer or the cooler this gets, you know, the more it cools, the thicker it gets. And that's not a good idea. So I'm going to have to zap this in the microwave a little bit to thin it out again. And there we go. Yeah, I'm not as happy with the way this is melting. It's melted better in the past. And like I said, my cake pops might be a little bit too frozen, but that's okay, because eventually, they aren't frozen. They're still, you know, they just might be a little bit too cold, and they'll be fine. And then let me just play with this. I won't keep you much longer, but you get the idea. A few years ago, when cake pops were really the rage, and it was a very fast fad, because I think it is very labor intensive, and I think that's one reason why. I noticed around Christmas time they were selling these cake pop kits where they had these round molds, and you would bake the cake in, you know, each half of the mold and put them together to make this cake ball. I said to myself, what a ripoff. The poor consumer does not realize they're getting ripped off. You cannot make a cake pop with just solid cake. You need to add the frosting in order to make it stable enough to stand up to dipping it into the candy melts. Okay, so I've got a bunch of these to do. So what I'm going to do is tell you about how I'm going to plan on doing the Santa hats, and then I'm going to sign off, because the party is tonight, and I would like to get these done by tonight. For the party, of course. So what I did, and I haven't firmed this up yet, but I made modeling candy. Now the Cake Boss, on that TV show, he calls it modeling chocolate, but it's not really chocolate. You take candy melts and add 1/3 cup of light corn syrup and melt it out, and now it becomes it's stuck in my jar. But here it is, right here, stuck in my bowl. But I will zap this, and it becomes quite soft and pliable. You let it set overnight, and now it's hard after letting it set overnight. So I will zap it in the microwave for probably 10-15 seconds, and it'll become soft and pliable again, sort of like Play-Doh. And then I will shape little Santa hats and position them on top of the cake pop. And then I've got some leftover frosting, and I'll pipe the little white fur around the Santa hat and the top of on the point there, and I'll make those too. So that'll be a lot of fun. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if any of you want to tackle cake pops, I tell you how I learned how to do them. I looked it up on the internet, and there's differing opinions about it, but I've done this several times, and I think my photos in my Facebook profile show some of the cake pops I've done for various seasons. And I don't do these very often because of the work involved, but I really felt like a creative outlet. And I promise you, and Christy, if you're watching, I promise you not one BLT, not one. Okay, have a good day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.